Sri Lanka is struggling to deal with what could be described as one of the most controversial food related issues stemming from the economic crisis. The prevailing lack of availability and the high prices of eggs has sent shockwaves throughout the country, mainly due to the fact that eggs are one of the cheapest and the most popular sources of protein. At the same time, the egg shortage affected several industries, especially the bakery industry. Sri Lanka's annual average per capita consumption of eggs is around 118, while the daily production is around 7 million. We at the Advocata Institute thought of explaining the economics behind the egg shortage and the price hike. Before COVID 19, the price of an egg was around 20 rupees. It seemed like the market was in balance since we hardly heard of any excess or shortage of supply or demand of eggs. During the COVID 19 pandemic in March 2020, the egg prices declined to around 10 rupees and people consumed more eggs as a part of their meals. Since this is soon after the economic disruption started, the market had all the suppliers in it actively. Thus, the supply of eggs was inelastic. Suppliers produced the same amount of eggs as before, but with the lockdown, people's movement was restricted and they were unable to shop as they used to do. This caused the demand reduction while supply was constant as before. Standard value chains has been disrupted and the suppliers had to reach out to their buyers in order to sell their products. This converted to an excess supply situation which obviously ended up with lower prices than before. In the first graph, demand declines due to the lockdown and prices and quantities fall. But producers produce the exact amount since they cannot prevent it from happening artificially. Producers do have the same amount of chicken as before, and in order to maintain them, they have to sell the eggs. It makes the prices fall further. The government of Sri Lanka implemented a zero chemical fertilizers and a pesticides policy, which happened to be a serious hit for all forms of agricultural activities in the country. Maize is one of the highly needed poultry food, and local production of maize has been seriously affected by the government policy. Normally, for a year, 600,000 metric tons of maize is needed for the poultry industry, and 400,000 metric tons of it is provided by the local production, and the rest is imported. Due to the fertilizer ban, the poultry industry could only get 75,000 metric tons of maize from local production. This led to an increase in the maize prices from 70 rupees per kilogram to over 250 rupees per kilogram in August 2022. Maize and eggs can be considered as supply complements. In any case, if the prices of maize got increased, it affects the cost of production of eggs and the egg prices would increase immediately. With the exchange rate crisis, the price of eggs increased further. This is mainly due to the increased VAT on imported poultry food and vitamins. Due to the rupee depreciation, we have to pay more for imported goods than before. With Sri Lanka's forex shortage affecting the animal feed importation, the production of eggs and meat had also dropped due to the lack of nutrition packs given to animals at farms. 60% of the industry composed of large-scale suppliers and only 40% are SMEs. Due to the inability to maintain the animals with higher costs and higher delivery costs, a large number of SMEs have dropped out of the market. Some of the producers have used the chicken for meat as the cost of maintaining them for eggs were higher. As shown in the graph, cost of production increases, quantity supplied decreases, thus supply falls and price increases. With Sri Lanka's shortages in cooking gas and fuel issues being somewhat under control, and with shorter power cuts, the restaurant and the hotel industry has rebooted its operations, increasing the demand for chicken and eggs. But since most of the SMEs have left the industry and large-scale suppliers also shrunk to a considerable extent, it was impossible for them to meet the high demand. It takes around 5.5 months for a new batch of laying chicken to mature, and it costs around 3.5 million, which was only 0.7 million previously. As shown in the graph here, the demand increases, but the suppliers don't have an ability to meet the demand, and that further increases the prices. People's living standards have deteriorated and purchasing power has declined, and eggs were an affordable nutritional food with limited substitutes. Normally, when production is decreased, the situation can be controlled with substitutes coming into the market. Fish and meat products were the best substitutes for eggs, but due to the production being affected by the fuel issue, fish products are too expensive, and compared to that, poultry products look cheaper. This is what normally happens with the substitutes, but this is not happening in the current scenario due to the higher prices of substitutes. In addition, addressing this issue has an impact on a national level as well, due to the concerns surrounding malnutrition among Sri Lankans, especially among children and pregnant women. Even though the issues of malnutrition caused mainly by the prevailing unmanageable food inflation and poor food security has been a topic of discussion for several months, the issue has now attracted more attention. It has a lot to do with egg prices, because eggs remain the main and the most affordable source of protein for many Sri Lankans. In a context where the prices of fish and meat have skyrocketed and the government imposed import restrictions on a number of goods including milk powder and cheese, which are other sources of protein. In August 2022, a price control was imposed by the Consumer Affairs Authority. The price of a white egg was around 43 rupees, while the price of a red egg was around 45 rupees. Before the price control, the market price of an egg was around 62 rupees. Sri Lanka's bakers and confectionery makers demanded the government to intervene and impose the price controls on their suppliers, such as egg farmers, along with other raw materials needed for bakery products. Prices of eggs in most supermarkets were around 45 rupees or more in December, while many small groceries stopped selling eggs at lower prices despite raids by Consumer Affairs Authority. Price controls triggered shortages and black markets. This has again negatively affected the industry. In the graph here, as you can see, the market price is higher than the controlled prices. Due to the lower controlled price, there is a higher demand and a lower supply in the market. That creates a shortage of eggs. In December 2022, the Court of Appeal ordered to annul the gazette till February 2023. With that, the egg prices increased to 45 rupees. Egg producers have rejected the government's request to reduce egg prices. The maximum retail price decision resulted in many poultry producers not supplying eggs to the market until the prices were increased. Once the controls are relaxed, prices are determined by market forces, and therefore prices increase. On the 2nd of January, the Cabinet approved to import eggs. Imported prices would be much lower than the current market prices. Local production would be decreased, while remaining market demand would be supplied through the imports. This can affect the local producers badly, but for the consumers, eggs can be purchased at a lower cost. With the new price control being imposed a few weeks ago, the price of white eggs were around 44 rupees, while the price of red eggs are around 46 rupees. In conclusion, the issues related to eggs are mainly due to supply side factors. So we need to address the challenges faced by producers and the industry. Price controls are negatively affecting the economy, and it will worsen the market, which will affect both the consumer and the producer adversely. Imports will be good for consumers given the current context, because it will reduce the prices to a considerable extent. But importation should be done on international standards. That brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you for watching.